So we welcome you tonight to the movement that's about nothing but love, because we know that love, justice is what love looks like in public. We call it like this: forward together, not one step back. And we know somebody's been hurting our people. It's gone on far too long, and it's time for a love, moral, justice, power movement to happen in America and to even touch the world. Welcome tonight. My name is Bishop William J. Barber II, and I'm just one of the half of the co-chairs of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. My sister, beloved and revolutionary love, is none other than the Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris. Y'all better know something. She comes straight up out of New York and Union, and then nobody like the Reverend Dr. Alvin Jackson, who is our modern day Bayard Rustin, who's leading us in this effort, and a whole host of people. We're coming from states tonight, like Alabama, like Georgia, like Mississippi, like Florida. We're coming at you live. And then did I miss anybody tonight? Because in the love movement, you don't want to leave anybody out. So we're coming. Somebody say something to me if I missed a state. And we got this is stops the poor people campaign. Rain, sleet, shine, nothing. People say we have to speak up. One reason is because if we don't speak up, like Zora Neale Hurston said, people will give you pain, and if you don't say anything, they will kill you and say you enjoyed it. But we don't enjoy the poverty that exists and the racism exists, and we're going to say something about it. And so tonight is the first of 10 tour stops headed to where? Mass, poor people's, low-wage workers, moral march on Washington and to the polls, June 18th, 2022. And this is the first Moral Monday tour leading to that time together. And you'll be hearing from people all over the various states. Brianna, I see you tonight. Say something back to me, Brianna. This is not going to be static. Y'all loosen up a little bit on some smiles out there. Am I still up? Somebody give me a thumb. I lose my connection. Want to make sure something happened to the internet. Something happened to the internet.
Oh, good. It's freezing up a little bit, but we can hear you. So that's important.
A little bit. I hear Rob. So let me hear from somebody else out there. Y'all flow with me tonight. This ain't gonna be just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me see. Can I grab somebody to say? Dominique, say something to me.
I'm here with you. I'm here with you.
What's happening, Dominique? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Camera on. Let's talk a little bit before we go down the list. Let's talk a little bit. Get camera. Is that you? Can I see you? Wave your hand.
I'm waving my hand.
Okay, so I'm froze up a little bit, but that's all right. We still keep moving like we were not.
Let's see.
It'll be a while.
Yeah. A little frozen, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we are. Don't worry about it. Just a little unstable. I'll fix that in just a minute while I turn it over to Miss Yara Allen, who is our theomusicologist. And when you want to do justice and you want to move, you call Yara Allen. Let her get the team together, and you're talking about theomusicology, you will have it. And so tonight, go hit that share button and tell everybody to join the Mass Poor People's Assembly, Poor People's Low-Wage Workers Assembly, Moral March on Washington.
Hear you, Yara.
All right, Ms.
And
Yara.
to the polls. And we'll be back in just a minute. Take it over, Yara, and you sing until I let you know I'm back up and going.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, good evening. It's so good to be here with you. We're going to get right into the song on behalf of your family at the Poor People's Campaign and National Call for Moral Revival. And on behalf of my co-director, Dr. Sharon Rivara, we're just going to encourage you to hold on and keep your eyes on Christ. We're too close to victory now to give up. And so we just want to keep our eyes on the prize. Hold on. Usually when we're together, we have instruments, musicians, and all of the accompaniment, but we have these, and we have this, and we have all this wonderful energy. I want you to just holler back at me when I say hold on. You can stay on mute if you like, and just give me that hold on, and we're gonna make this work. Hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Well, Paul and Silas were bound in jail, had no money to go their bail. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Paul and Silas thought all were lost. Dungeons shook and the chains fell off. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. There's one thing that we did wrong. Stayed in the wilderness a little too long. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. But here's one thing I know we did right. We stood up and we started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Keep on fighting, don't you get off track. Forward together, not one step back. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Here we go. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Last time. Hold on. Hold on. Forward together. Not one step back. Oh.
Wow. That is simply powerful. Y'all give it up. Put your hands up in the air and clap. Now, you know, when I came on with a kind of a, was trying to mess up my flow, this computer. But do you know why I did that? Is because even in the darkest days of the movement, I've done a lot of reading on this, they said nothing's going to take our joy, right? Nothing. So we just don't, and we say to society, don't make a mistake now, because we lovers, that we're not fighters. Just because we're smiling, that we're happy about everything. We have a joy because when you wake up in the morning and you wake up with your clothes, as my grandma used to say, in your right mind.
Yeah.
And part of being clothed in your right mind is knowing that stuff is not right. And what woke you up in the morning was purpose, not your alarm clock, but purpose. There is a certain joy that comes with that, even when you're crying. Sure, we are crying about the inhumane reality of nearly 1 million people dying. Surely in COVID, that this nation, even with all of this death, hasn't had the consciousness to pass health care and living wages. And we're going to stand against that. But inside of the revolutionary family, we will sing like Yara just sung, hold on. We will say, come on down, and we will protest and we will speak and we will win, because justice is our deadline. The first victory is our faith that change can even happen. The very fact that you get up saying, I'm not accepting this. You're willing to suffer underneath the despair in order to bring hope and transformation. And so we're glad again to welcome you to the Mass Poor People's Low Wage Workers Assembly Moral March on Washington, and to the Polls Moral Monday Tours. You're the first one in the South.
Yes.
The first one is in the South. Now, if you look on the screen or you're thinking about it and you don't see enough people besides those in your coordinating committee, share. We're trying to reach thousands tonight. So push this out. We're on a lot of platforms, right, Lamonique? We're on a lot of different sharing platforms tonight. And so push it out. And it's all about people getting ready to come to DC to nationalize. The end of the work is not in DC, but it's a day, not a day, but a declaration. It is a drawing a line in the sand saying that we won't be silent anymore. And we're going to change the narrative. Somebody say change the narrative.
Change the narrative.
We're going to build power among poor and low wealth people across this country, voting and otherwise. Say that, build power.
Build power.
And we're not just going to curse the darkness. We're going to put an agenda forward. And it's not about begging America. It's about helping America understand, if you want to exist, this is no longer about can a party be, or can a certain political, can America be? Can she be what she has said on paper? That's the question. I said the other day, that if you think it keeps hitting me, Liz, that the insurrection happened on January the 6th. Most people miss that was Epiphany in the church. And Epiphany is the time when you see clearer than you've ever seen. And what I saw was not those upper middle class people full of racism climbing walls. What I saw is, if they have somehow lost hope, then what happens if poor and low wealth people lose hope in this country and believe that there's no help? What that could be turned. That's where autocrats and all kinds of people live. They love to go in and among poor and low wealth people and lead them in the wrong direction. And that's why this movement has to be. This is the movement that is saying to America, save yourselves from this untoward reality, like Peter on the day of Pentecost. This does not have to be. This does not have to be. So we're welcome. We're glad to have all of you. And where should we start? Well, we always start from the states up. And so to ground us at the beginning, and why she's organizing, why they are organizing, why they are pushing folk out, is none other than that bad sister. Y'all know her. Reverend CF. That's all you got to know. If you just go to Birmingham, Alabama, and say, where's Reverend CF? You don't even have to say a whole name. They say, oh, you mean Calvin Foster? That's it. That bad sister that can organize. That sister can organize cats. And that's a hard thing to do. She can get all the cats. I never seen nothing like it. My dear friend Scott. And then there's no need of talking about organizing anything that's about religious moral reality without talking to the Council of Churches. Am I right? And we have,
You frozen for a moment there, Bishop. Okay. Get Bishop Barbara back. I think we're going to just turn it to you, Reverend Carolyn.
Go ahead. Okay, I will. After all that big build-up, Dave.
That was a great build-up. Reverend Carolyn Foster from Birmingham, Alabama.
you. I am so excited to be here.
There you go.
I am Reverend Carolyn Foster. Okay, there you go. Okay, thank you, Bishop. I am Reverend Carolyn Foster, one of the tri-chairs for the Alabama Poor People's Campaign. And through my work and lived experience, I know poverty up close and personal. Too many Alabamians are hungry and in need of food, which is the most basic of human necessity. Too many Alabamians need decent, affordable housing to sustain their physical and mental well-being. Too many Alabamians need access to health care to stay healthy and to take care of themselves and their families. Too many Alabamians need a living wage that will provide for their lives with dignity.
That's right. That's right.
Well, here in Alabama the Beautiful, 8 rural hospitals have closed since 2011, mainly due to lack of funding.
That's not right there, Reverend Paul, because I'm emceeing tonight. Y'all know I do a little different because of the intensity. Say that one more time, because see, that's why we're coming. That's why doctors are coming and nurses are coming. You said 4 hospitals have closed.
8.
Since when?
Since 2011.
My God.
Had 8 rural hospitals to close, mainly due to lack of funding, which leads to the next point I was going to make. It is because here in beautiful Alabama the Beautiful, state legislators refuse to expand Medicaid, even though 7 out of 10 Alabamians support it.
Now, wait a minute. Let's get clear here, because you're describing 2 Alabamas.
I am.
One that's beautiful, one that's now 7 out of 10 Alabama, but surely what you mean is 7 out of 10 Black Alabamians support Medicaid expansion, because Medicaid expansion just gonna help Black folk, and that's what they say. So you're not talking about Alabamians, you're talking about Black, because you're Black, so you got to be talking about Black people, right?
I'm talking about Black people, white people, Hispanic people. I'm talking about people in Alabama. 7 out of 10 support the expansion of Medicaid, yet our state elected officials refuse to expand it. Here in, quote, Alabama the Beautiful, we rank 42nd out of 50 in quality child education. 42nd out of 50. Here in Alabama the Beautiful, there are not enough shelter beds available. And so what does local city governments do? They are right now working to arrest and fine homeless people for sleeping in the only places available to them, which is public parks and under bridges.
So they'd rather put them in jail rather than help them get a place to live. And let me ask you, Carolyn, as because this is kind of like a talk show tonight, intentionally, because people don't know this. First of all, you're informing people that there is a Black-white unity that we don't often talk about in Alabama. See, they think some people still think it's the old South. So 7 out of 10. The other thing that you're saying to us, I think, is that every year Congress people come to Alabama on both sides of the so-called political aisle, and they claim how much they love the civil rights museums and all of that. But you're saying to me, they come to Alabama and go to the Civil Rights Museum, but then they vote like the civil rights movement never happened. Exactly. Because they don't address these issues. Is that what you're facing in Alabama?
That is what we are facing here in Alabama. And that is what we are mobilizing to change, to build power among poor and low wealth people, to change the narrative and to change Alabama to make it truly beautiful. If we're going to call ourselves Alabama the Beautiful, then we must work to shift the power structure here in Alabama and to create a new vision for Alabama. That's what we are here for. And so that is why I am, and many of us here in Alabama are mobilizing and organizing toward the Mass Poor People's and Low Wage Workers Assembly and the Moore March on Washington, and to the polls on June 18th. We're standing together to fight against this systemic poverty and systemic racism, and to demand justice and dignity for every Alabamian. And so I'm so happy to welcome you tonight. I'm welcoming you on behalf of the Alabama Poor People's Campaign, and we're delighted to host this virtual mobilizing tour tonight. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, thank you so much, Carolyn. I can hear in your voice the seriousness because you live it. And as Alabama goes, the rest of the nation, that's why we build from the bottom up. I mean, and if Alabama could be the home of the civil rights movement, it can be the home of this final leg, this last leg of addressing systemic racism, poverty, ecological devastation, denial of health care, the war economy, and this false moral narrative, religious nationalism. And it has to be. I mean, and people, one historian told me the other day, Alabama and these southern are not red states. He said they're unorganized states and intentionally divided states. And we're working to organize and to strike down the divides, the walls that have been put up. No better way to do. We love you, Carolyn, and I understand your bishop is all in, Bishop Curry. You know, he first went to jail with me in North Carolina. Yeah, and we hope he's going to be one of the ones that will.
Yes, he is.
Okay, so he's telling the whole Episcopal Church. Y'all hear that? So share this now. If you're on tonight and you're not on the coordinating committee, we hope more people are here. This is your first time hearing about this, so we want you to share it now and tell other folk. You just heard from Alabama. Now the bishop is here. And we want to ask our bishop if she will share with us, be very clear with us about why, you know, because sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes we have a hard time with certain denominational persons. They worry about, well, I might have somebody in my church that's you know, doesn't agree with these issues. But some things are not about right and left. It's about you know, right versus left, Democrat versus Republican, but right versus wrong. Bishop, talk to us why you are engaged and why you are mobilizing and calling on others.
Hello, I'm Bishop Teresa Jefferson Snorton, Chair of the Governing Board of the National Council of Churches in the USA. It's my delight and privilege to greet you on behalf of the National Council of Churches as you launch this We Must Do More tour as a part of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. We want to congratulate you on the work that has been done so far, the way in which you have gathered together to lift your voices on behalf of those who have been pushed to the margins. As the Poor People's Campaign has become a movement across the country, calling us back to our moral obligation to love and care for our neighbors. We are grateful for brave individuals like you who step forward and answer the call. And now the time has come to do more. While our voices have been lifted, we see still little action to alleviate the pain and distress and suffering of so many in a country of plenty. Yes, we must do more. We must lift our voices. We must demand to be heard. We must make sure that the least of these are taken care of. So I will pray with you and be with you and pledge the support of the National Council as we continue as people of faith to be advocates for peace and justice, to be those who speak out against oppression and injustice, and most of all to those and with those who will pray for God's mighty hand to move, so that indeed this place in which we call home will be a place where everyone receives the care, the housing, the food, health care, and all that they need to have a quality of life. May God bless every endeavor, and may God bless each one of you.
Thank you so much, Bishop. And you know, I hear in Bishop's voice a solemnness, like a call for a solemn assembly. In other words, this is serious business. And did you hear her say, well, everybody, this will be a home where everybody will have, everybody has a right to live. Now we're going to show a video, and then coming out of that video, the Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris is going to ground us some, and then the Reverend Dr. Alvin Jackson in that order. Then I'll come back. I do want to say to the tech team, I want you to grab some of the numbers, like the number of poor people in the various states, because I want folks to see that tonight, the states that we're working with and the voting power of poor, low wealth people in those states. I'll be calling for it and at some point. But right now, let's take a look at a video that shows what we mean by mobilizing. And imagine this multiplied by 20. Imagine this multiplied by 20. Roll it.
We welcome you to the launch of the Mass Poor People's Low Wage Assembly and Moral March on Washington, D.C., June 18, 2022.
We are a new, unsettling force, and we are powerful. New, unsettling force, and we're here.
We're rising up to demonstrate the compelling power that we, poor and low-income people, have to reconstruct society from the bottom up.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
Because we know that there is no scarcity in this land. The only scarcity is the moral will to do what's right.
Hold on, just a little while longer.
We are those with sub-minimum wage jobs who can't afford sky-high rent.
People with disabilities are the fastest growing minority group.
It's crazy to me that in 2021, it's still legal for workplaces to pay a sub-minimum wage to people with disabilities.
There are still so much trial and tribulations that we go through as Indigenous people. We can't get a decent wage to sustain ourselves, nor can we get adequate housing.
Veterans across this nation say enough is enough. We can't pat essential workers on the back on one day and then cut their health care the next day.
Health is a political choice.
What more do I need to do to prove that my voice is just as valuable as anyone else's?
There are still forces in denial that would try to slow walk our transition to a clean economy and a just future for us all.
We have an immoral system run by immoral people.
But together we walk and we fight.
It's time for a change. Reconstruyamos esta gran nación.
See, we are people of resilience as we fight these interlocking injustices together.
When we work together, mobilize together, and rise together, we become a voice for the voiceless, and we become an agent of change in a time where great change is needed.
We need the third reconstruction to ensure that deaf people, people with disabilities, and all people can have the right to live and to thrive.
And I declare we have work to do. It is a moral abomination that there are 140 million poor and low wealth people in this country. It's time to give everything we have to deconstruct the interlocking injustices that are all around us. If you got gray hair, suit up one more time. If you're middle-aged and if you're young, pay your debt for living on somebody else's sacrifices. Because it's time.
I know justice is coming soon.
Hey, do you believe that of today?
Indeed, we do know that justice is coming soon. It is so powerful to be with everyone this evening. Good evening, Alabama. Good evening, Georgia and Tennessee and Florida and Mississippi and people from all across the nation. And Bishop Barber, it is powerful to be with everyone gathered on this day of revolutionary love, because despite the biggest attack on voting rights since the Civil War, an eviction wave that makes the Great Depression look mild, the worst public health crisis in 100 years, at a time when nearly 100 million people are without adequate health care, we have elected officials, the likes of Joe Manchin and Mitch McConnell and others, who come to us with an immoral message. They say we can't afford to invest in the people. It's too costly. It's not what the people want. They call low-wage workers essential, but then go about paying expendable wages. Yes, those with wealth, those with institutional power are committing a crime denounced by prophets throughout the ages. As the prophet Jeremiah decried, they have treated the wounds of my people like they were not serious, saying peace, peace, when there is no peace. For years, we in the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival. We've been sounding the alarm on the emergencies that are going around, the injustices of our society. We've been offering solutions, pushing forward our agenda, taking direct action together. And so this evening, this day of love, we're gathered to demonstrate that power of poor and impacted people coming together, demanding that this country can change for the better. We're calling for a radical redistribution of political and economic power. We're calling to build the kind of power it's going to take to enact all our demands and to rise and mobilize and organize and register and educate and empower and engage people to turn up for June 18th for the mass Poor People and Low-Wage Workers Assembly Moral March on Washington and to the polls. Because we know if there ever was a time to fight, it is now. This is an all call. Join us if you're homeless and hungry and yearning to be free. Come together, sign up to be ambulance drivers, willing to drive through the red lights of racism and poverty and low wages and the lack of health care. Show up in DC and at the polls. Arrest the attention of the nation. 'Cause today, 'cause tomorrow, 'cause every day, we know in this campaign, in this movement, it's time to move forward together and not one step back. We are ready and we are coming. Amen.
Amen and amen. Thank you, the Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris, the other hardworking, committed co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign. Greetings, Alabama and surrounding states. It's wonderful being with you tonight as we launch the national mobilization of the Mass Poor People's Assembly, Low-Wage Workers Assembly, and Moral March on Washington and to the polls June 18th. We start here in Alabama and surrounding states tonight, and we conclude our tour in Memphis, Tennessee on May 23rd before heading to Washington on June 18th. All roads lead to Washington, D.C. I grew up just over the way from Alabama in the Delta of Mississippi, arguably the poorest and most depressed area in the entire country, Indianola, Sunflower County, just a few miles down the road from where the body of Emmett Till, beaten and battered, was found, tied to a cotton gin in the Tallahatchie River. And it was not until I went away to college on an academic scholarship to a little school at the time in Orange, California, Chapman College, now Chapman University, and people would ask me, "Where are you from?" And I would respond, "Indianola, Sunflower County, Mississippi." And they would shake their heads and say, "You poor little thing, culturally and socially and economically deprived, you poor little thing." And I would look around to see who they were talking about because I never saw myself that way. There was a lot of pride and motivation and care and can-do spirit in that little community. I never saw myself as being deprived and without, but I was, and so are we. A few of us have gotten some breaks and maybe, as the old folks would say, have a few nickels to rub together, but so much of our country is deprived and without in systemic poverty, systems and policies that keep people in poverty. 140 million poor and low wealth people in this country, and it doesn't have to be that way. Somebody is hurting our people, and it's gone on far too long, and we cannot and will not be silent anymore. Thank you, Alabama and surrounding states, for getting us started tonight. On now to Texas and the other states, and all along the way, we're going to mobilize, organize, register, educate, engage, and empower people for a movement that votes. All roads lead to Washington, D.C. I want you to go now to Poor People's Campaign. Maybe don't go there now, but make note of it. poorpeoplescampaign.org. Sign up, encourage others to sign up, fill a bus. We want a whole lot of buses coming from Alabama and surrounding states to Washington, D.C. We're on our way in the name of love, justice, and truth as a moral movement to make the nation see our faces and realities, hear our pain and agenda, feel our moral authority, and votes. June 18th, Washington, D.C. See you there.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris and Reverend Dr. Jackson. You're exactly right. We want everybody, all roads, all buses, all trains, all planes are leading to June 18th. And let me just say that on June 17th, at Friday, 1,000 clergy and 1,000 impacted people will join arms starting at the Lincoln Memorial and right at the height of rush hour in that time, walk down the streets to say, you're no longer going to put us in the back room. And then we will have a massive communal dinner and gathering for impacted people and religious leaders, anybody who wants to come. And then on the 18th, we will actually have that mass poor people's, low-wage workers assembly moral march on Washington and to the polls. And you know, the people most impacted by systemic racism, systemic poverty, ecological devastation, the denial of healthcare, the war economy, and the false moral narrative, religious nationalism, they will be the keynote speakers. This is not a gathering for people to talk for poor and low impacted people. Their stories, their pain, their voice, their moral authority, along with our clear call for a third reconstruction. We know that there's no lack of, the lie of scarcity is a lie. We know that when people say we don't know what to do, that's not true. What we have is a lack of deep and abiding moral consciousness and a commitment to a third reconstruction in this country. We can end poverty and low wealth and all of the things from the bottom up. The resources are there, the ideas are there. What must happen is a movement. Now, we also want you to know that on that day, nobody on the stage will ever be on the stage by themselves, because this is not about individuals. This is about a movement. It's about a campaign. We now have 45 coordinating committees from states, 200 partner organizations, many economists and lawyers and academics that are joining with us to make sure that the movement has plenty of footnotes for the truths that we speak. 12 denominations, groups from Black, from Africa, from predominantly Black denominations to Quakers to Unitarians. And we have labor unions and people from all backgrounds, young folk, everybody across the country is mobilized. And that's why Georgia tonight and Alabama and Mississippi and Florida and Tennessee, it is so powerful that you are on. Go back to that slide, because now you're actually looking at a part of the slide, a part of the the Poor People's Campaign mobilization page. Go back to the one that shows poverty, because we have a lot of people on tonight who are not in our coordinating committees. And by the way, keep sharing this out. Tell people to come on and get the truth. But if you look, you'll see we've done a map that shows the 43% of adults, 52% of children who are poor and low wealth. And we have the number. South Carolina, over 2 million people. Florida, over 9 million people. Alabama, over 2 million people. You see it at Georgia, over 4 million persons. This is unacceptable. We cannot accept this anymore. And if you go to the next map, you'll see, but it's not just the nightmare, it's the power. God has fixed it so, history has fixed it so. Look at that in Alabama, over 40% of the voting population in that state are poor and low wealth. And it is a lie when people say poor and low wealth people vote for extremism. Most of the time they don't vote because they don't hear anybody talking about the issues. But now poor and low wealth people are saying, if you don't talk about issues, we're going to talk about them. And we're going to bring our own agenda, and we're going to show our power. Look at Mississippi, 44%. Florida, nearly 50% of the voters are poor and low wealth. You see that? Those are powerful numbers that aren't being talked about anywhere in the country. South Carolina, 45%. And it's a reason why the political pundits don't talk about this. The reason why they say, well, the midterms are going to do certain things, because that's the game. That's the game. To not even let poor and low wealth people know their power, and certainly not factor them in to the political struggles in this country. But no more. We won't be silent anymore. Go to the front page, Rob. We want folk to see our website. Bam, there it is. You can go, and all you got to do is RSVP, and you click on that, and what'll come up is how to sign up. And not only how to sign up to come, but how to sign up to help. How to sign up to come and sign up to help is being launched out there today. So share this everywhere. Everybody that has an email, everybody on your email ought to get a link. You ought to send them a link. Everybody in your messaging, who you can tweet to, who you can send anything to. We need to push this out. I often say Harriet Tubman got 700 people out of slave. She didn't have any of this. She didn't have Twitter. She didn't have email. She didn't have a homepage, but she had commitment in her heart. She had a made up mind. She knew how to read the moss on the north side of the tree. And if she could do more with less, we can do less. If she could do more with less, we can do more with more. And then also go to the bus piece. This is the piece I want folk to see. Bam! Right there. You see all those little dots? This is what you'll see is all the places where buses will be coming and leaving from. They'll be available. And you don't have to go out and get your own bus. We're going to do it through this thing called Rally. And you can sign up for a bus, tell people they'll be COVID safe. In fact, they won't even be fully full, but they'll be COVID safe, all of that. And you can pick a place and join in. So it's real easy. Every church, every social organization, every community housing project, you can sign up for a bus. And we're working on something. We won't announce it tonight, but we're going to be working on something where we hope to have some opportunities for free buses where people can sign up. And so all you have to do is get on the bus and come on up the road. But look at that. And those are showing within 700 miles. 700 to 1,000 miles. Of course, there are other places across the country. Why? Because some people have said to us, look, we don't care if we're 700 or 7,000 miles. We're going to get on the bus and we're coming, because we understand every now and then you have to have a generationally transformative event in Washington, D.C. to reset the moral agenda. But then you have to go back home and work from the bottom up. So this is not a day. It is a declaration. And now we're moving to our brothers and sisters. You all see that? See, those are all of the tools. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you so much. And now we're going to the rest of the persons that are there. These are powerful. So we're going to have Frank Barragan from Alabama. Frank Barragan from Alabama with the Coalition for Immigrant Justice to say a couple of minutes about why he's mobilizing his community. And then we're going to have Emily Johnson from the Mississippi Poor People's Campaign, powerful sister, Emily Johnson. And then we're going to have the Reverend Pamela T. Andrews from Florida. Talked to her last night, and powerful sister, powerful. We're going to have her to come on and say why Floridians are organizing. And we're not going to accept this anymore. As Ezekiel said, at least they're going to hear us. that nobody's going to have an excuse in this country that they didn't know better. And then Sarah Brumette also from the Florida Poor People's Campaign. And then Kenneth Hanifer from I Man from Atlanta that is also mobilizing from the Georgia area. So we want them to come on. Each person is bringing tonight their best Gettysburg address. I told them, your best 1 minute and a half. Bring your energy. Now, I know sometimes we sit down in our computer and we kind of talk, but bring your energy. Say this so we can cut it later, make a promo out of it. So bring your voice, bring your body, bring your philosophy, bring your power, and say to folk right now, to the whole nation, why it's so important that they join you in mobilizing. Frank, and then
Yes,
Emma,
sir.
and then Reverend Pamela, and then Sarah, and then Karima Hanifa. God bless you.
It's really great to see everybody, and Bishop, it's great to see you again. We've done a lot of traveling together in the past. I have to start with I hear these words: build back better. Build back better. What the heck does that mean? They have a pot of money that's going to help, or they claim it's going to help everybody that we spoke about. The climate control, infrastructure, daycare, and a lot of other different things that they're not moving anywhere. All they're doing is trying to tell us what we want to hear, or they believe we want to hear. We're tired of that. I think that I'm here to speak more about what the immigration situation is now, and we went through a lot of problems with the previous administration, and then when President Biden was elected, he claimed the first 30 days that all 11 million people would have the opportunity to become citizens of the United States. Well, he got a lot of backdoor problems with that. So then they come back and they said, well, we're going to work with the DACA recipients. We're going to give the farm workers an opportunity to become citizens. And there's TPS, temporary protection status, that people who came on the H-2B, it worked. But that's all they can do. They can work. They can't go back home. They're contracted through to whoever owns the company, which is almost like slavery. But we're still waiting. Even when they come back and talked about the 2 million for people to have an opportunity to become citizens, they talked about the DACA recipients, which is approximately 700,000. And let me tell you, the DACA recipients that I know in the state of Alabama are very successful. They're nurses, they're teachers, they're librarians, they're business owners. They just took advantage of this opportunity and they're living the life, but yet they're not citizens of the United States of America. Farm workers, we know about the farm workers. When HB 56 came along, the farm workers left and all the crops rotted. So the farm workers and the essential workers are very important. What I want to say is that we have to stop. We really have to stop the fear.
That's right. That's right. The
anything.
fear.
What we have to do is move forward and be positive. They're going to throw mud at me. Listen, I can wipe it off, but I'm moving forward. I am not going to sit there and have words with people who are telling me that I'm wrong. Or that
Reverend, let me ask you a quick question because you just said something.
Yes, sir.
I think Bishop has frozen there again. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Barringen.
Yeah, I still have 30 seconds. No.
Okay. All right.
I got 45 seconds left.
Okay. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
So let me go forward. We talked about how do we make a change. We have new voters. We have to focus on the new voters.
Yeah, Reverend Barrington, I froze up a little bit, but I wanted to say something so we can move to the next week. When we talk about racism, the Poor People's Campaign, it is important to note we don't mean just black. We mean the racism inherent in immigration injustice, racism toward indigenous people, the racism toward Asian people, and the racism that hurts white people collaterally. Because as Dr. King said, that was a great fear of the aristocracy is they didn't want all these us to get together. Right. So racism not only is about policy, it's about blockage. One of the things I want to ask you, and that your community is mobilizing, and because I want to go to our next speaker, is mobilizing to June 18, 2022, and you understand why we have to put all these issues together, because the same people that will block health care, am I right, in your state, are the same people, now I might be wrong, so correct me, that will block living wage and that will block immigration reform. It's the same people, regardless of where they are. And so is that right that the Latino community and others understand why it's so important for us to mobilize together?
Absolutely, Bishop, because we have to make sure that we're telling the right stories, and the stories are true stories. Mm-hmm. And so we're letting people know the healthcare situation a lot of folks don't understand with all the numbers, and there was a good 160,000 individuals that didn't have health care in the state of Alabama. 63% of those were white.
Wow.
A large percentage of those, Bishop, worked.
That's right.
Couldn't afford it.
Yeah. So the whole narrative is off, and that's part of what people, when they ask us, why are we coming July 18th? Because if you don't change the narrative, you never get the transformation in policy, and you can't change the narrative without changing the narrator. So, Brother Frank, do you mind? We got the time. Can I move? I want to move to Emily, because I know these are short snippets. But Doc, let me tell you something. If you mobilize and your community is mobilized, and I know the fight that you have, and people don't understand, we don't quit because we get one vote loss. In fact, if you vote against us, that only emboldens us to fight harder, because we're not going anywhere until God calls us home. God bless you, Pastor. God bless you. Thank you so much. Listen, Emily from Mississippi, come on, tell us why folk from Mississippi and why you particular in your community is mobilizing towards July 18th.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm mobilizing and organizing Mississippians to join us in D.C. on June the 18th for the Mass Poor People's and Low-Wage Workers Assembly in March. I want to emphasize that exploitation does not have a color, nor does it have a party.
Say that one more time, and say that one. I want you to slow down, because folks, they're going to come to June 18th. They need to get that. Say that one more time. This is good, clear as you can.
I'm here tonight to emphasize that exploitation does not have a color, nor does it have a party. I'm here tonight as a sex trafficking survivor, formerly incarcerated, a person living in long-term recovery from drug addiction, and I'm a low-wage worker. I've had to live in a homeless shelter for over a year due to not being able to afford housing after incarceration. I've been denied employment and housing on numerous occasions because of my background. When I was blessed enough to get a job, I was denied SNAP benefits because I made minimum wage and actually worked 40 hours a week. Basically, when I was released from prison, I was told to go be productive. I had no resources. I worked every day since the beginning of the pandemic. I risked my life and my family's life trying to earn a living. I'm a single mother of 4. I work 2 jobs, 7 days a week for the last 4 years, and I'm barely making ends meet. I am tired. I am so tired. That doesn't include the odds and end jobs that I work when I can fit it into my schedule. I can't return to school because I can't afford to pay an outstanding balance that I have from 12 years ago. I've been faced with many challenges in my life due to a broken system in the state of Mississippi that has a long history of punishing the poor while rewarding the elite, corrupt elite wealthy class. I stand with the Poor People's Campaign because we are in desperate need of this third Reconstruction, and we must do more.
You know, Emily, you just said something, and I heard in your voice, I'm tired, but I heard you become sister to Fannie Lou Hamer, sick and tired of being tired. And that's when you get that kind of tired, you're willing to fight and change. And, you know, let me ask you one question. So when Manchin and Sinema and the senators from your state in February of last year voted to stop $15 living wage from being put in the American Rescue Plan, they were going right after your life.
Absolutely. Minimum wage has been $7.25 in Mississippi for over 20 years now. The cost of living has gone up on everything.
Right.
The cost of wages has not.
Yeah. And people try to ask us all the time. They say, I had somebody the other day say, well, why don't you, the Poor People's Campaign, why don't you all stop pushing about this policy and just work on getting people vocational jobs and whatnot? And we said, well, we do that too. We have a plan for all of that. But if you get a job and then folks cheat you, because that's really what it is, they're making hand over foot. The billionaires made $2 trillion during COVID so far. And they cheat you and deny you a living wage. You can actually work every day. I think in Mississippi, it takes almost 80 hours a week working at a minimum wage to even afford a basic 2-bedroom household. So I want folks to understand when we say we're fighting to change policy, because oftentimes they'll say to me as a pastor, well, what you need to do is set up a food kitchen, or what you need to do is feed people. Y'all need to stop begging and stop doing that and just listen, y'all. Listen, policy is what creates poverty. It's not people's morality. It's not that people are not doing anything. Policy creates poverty. Poverty is a choice. It does not have to be if policies were changed simply to be just. So, Emily, thank you so much. And God bless you. And look, your voice is going to be so needed before the entire nation. And I'm glad that you are in this battle with all of us. Your moral authority is exactly what the nation needs. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you.
Reverend Pamela.
Good evening, everyone. I'm out of the state of Florida, as you know, and I open up with this scripture. The poor man called out, and this is in Psalms 36:4. Says the poor man called out, and the Lord saved him. That's why we're here tonight on Love Night, to let everybody know that we're not going to allow people to be in poverty this long. One of the biggest fights in the great Sunshine State is that we had the opportunity to vote for minimum wage to go to $15 an hour. And now our great politician and governor is trying to stop city ordinance where they are declaring for one of the cities in Dade City. They're declaring if they hire, they have to pay at least a minimum wage of $14 an hour. Let me give a real small testimony. At the age of 13 in Panama City Beach, I became a housekeeper, making $3.25 an hour. 40 years later, we are at a minimum wage of $8.67 an hour. You tell me 40 years later that people don't deserve more than $5 and some change of an increase. We will not be quiet. We are on our way June 18th to Washington. We are there to put an impact on policy. Policy affects everyone, from the urban to the rural. And for some reason in Florida, we forget about the rural area. We forget that poor people live there. And because of the new policies that are coming about now and being encamped around us, that they're making people not sleep on benches, they're going to push them to the rural areas.
Wow.
They're going to put 20 miles to 30 miles out from getting something to eat. We can feed them a bag lunch, but they need more. And I come tonight to leave this with you. Meet me June 18th. I am calling on cousins, friends, neighbors, clergy. Meet me June 18th in Washington, D.C. It's time to sound the alarm. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired. I've been a single mother. I know what poverty is. I know if you get a job, you cannot go out there and get any welfare or SNAP. We need, if it wasn't for affordable care, I could not survive, because I will not be able to have health insurance of the job that I'm employed with a master's degree. So people live in poverty even with degrees. And the sad part is that working folks who don't realize they are in poverty. Rent has tripled in Florida. Rent was $750. A friend of mine's paid $500. Now she's at $1,000.
Wow.
And this is since the pandemic. This is where we are. And I leave this with you. The great late Nelson Mandela said, poverty is not an accident like slavery and apartheid. It is man-made, and can be removed by the actions of human beings. So let's make everybody we vote in be accountable. Florida will not have 9 million people in poverty, and we're here to fight. Thank you for the opportunity.
My God, thank you, Reverend. Thank you. I mean, really, you pulled Nelson Mandela. And thank you for telling us your whole story. The master's degree and people work. See, folk need to get clear that as you said, no way in the world are 9 million people poor in a state and dying from poverty, and it's not a policy choice. A few years ago, we saw 7 people die from vaping, and they changed all the policies. 7 people die from vaping. 250,000 people die every year from poverty, and folk are still resisting the kind of policy change. We saw corporations over the last 20-some months get $4 trillion in less than 2 years. Now we say you can't even give $3 trillion over 10 years to address issues like poverty and living wages and child income tax credit. And that's really minimal, because what the Economic Policy Institute says, we really need 10 trillion, $1 trillion a year, not to just throw away, but to invest in those things that work and to make sure that people have living wages. Thank you for that. And thank you for saying something that we often don't talk about. And that is what the systems try to do with poverty and poor people and low wage is hide them. So you drive them from the city to the rural area because there's no media in the rural area, all of those things. So you try to hide. But you said the poor man cried, and then the salvation came. This poor man cried. It is time for poor, low-wealth people and everybody who is allied to cry out like a trumpet and to say, America, no. You will not stay where you are. You must change. Thank you so much, Reverend. God bless you. Look forward to seeing you on June 18th and the world hearing your powerful testimony and voice for transformation and change. Come on, Sarah from Florida. We get a double out of Florida.
I know, and what a hard act to follow. Such great points. I want to talk a little bit more about the healthcare situation in Florida, because, here in Florida, millions of us, like so many others throughout the United States, live in a non-Medicaid expansion state. My family and my household has spent a lot of the last decade in what is known as the Medicaid gap. So we're kind of in a healthcare limbo where we make a little bit too much money to qualify for Medicaid coverage, but not enough to qualify for the tax subsidies that would allow us to purchase private insurance at an affordable price. So we've just been stuck, no health insurance. When we get sick, even with things like strep, we're stuck relying on home remedies. My husband and I have not been seen for a checkup in like 7 years. We both have moles that definitely need to be assessed. Other health issues.
Did you say 7 years?
Yes, 7 years. We live in a rural area, and the resources like the free clinics, things like that, they're really underfunded. There's not enough resources to go around. So it's really been a struggle. But we're lucky, we're both employed. We have a home, we have family nearby who we can lean on and when we're desperate. And there's so many other people throughout the state of Florida and throughout the broader South that are not lucky. People who are struggling more than we do, who have chronic illnesses, unemployment, homelessness, facing all forms of discrimination, hunger, these are issues that they're facing in addition to not being able to get access to health care. Here in Pensacola, we've had a real problem with the housing rates going up, with people, becoming homeless. And we've had an encampment form under the interstate here. And the city went to great lengths to evict this encampment. But during the struggle, when we were trying to protect, this kind of rudimentary community that is trying to protect itself and get resources, we kept hearing this testimony of folks who were like, this started because I didn't have health insurance. This started
That's right. Stop. I want to ask you that question because you said in Florida, like across the name, that underpasses are being used not so much for cars to go over another interstate, but for homes. That right there is, I'll just stop for a moment. That folk say, I see an underpass and I can call that home in this country with all of its is well. And you just said something. Now, did you say Florida didn't accept Medicaid expansion? Florida is one of the southern states that refused Medicaid expansion. Am I right?
That's right.
That's right. Florida is one of the states that refused. So as my sister said, you got a great governor, but you know what he's great in? Great in lying, great in denying, great in hustling people.
Yeah.
I just want folks to sit in that for a minute, that in the 21st century, even in the midst of a pandemic, 9 million poor and low-wealth people in Florida, and the state said no to Medicaid expansion. And our dear sister Sarah said for many people, that was the beginning of their fall into poverty and low wealth. Is that what you're saying to us tonight, Sarah?
That is what I'm saying. You know, and I apologize. I think my internet might be a little unstable.
We got you.
Can y'all hear me?
You. We can hear you.
Okay. Yes, that's what I'm saying. And the system, it teaches us that we need to blame ourselves, that we need to turn against each other, that our poverty is some kind of individual choice or moral failing. But the system is wrong, right? Our government leaders across the political spectrum are ignoring our basic needs, and they're funneling trillions of our dollars into war every year. Turn on any major news network right now, you're going to hear the war drums beating. What kind of system is that? It's wrong. Working class people are suffering, and it's up to us to have each other's backs, to unite, and to speak with one voice as we demand fundamental change to this system. We deserve healthcare. We deserve housing. We deserve an end to poverty. And we're only going to keep fighting until we get it. And so that's why we're here tonight on this Valentine's Day evening, here together in the spirit of revolutionary love for each other. And that's why we're going to go to DC on June 18th. So I appreciate y'all.
Powerful, powerful, my sister, powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You know, it's hard sometimes we come on these things and you say, well, we're going to do something for an hour. But look, y'all, let me tell you something that I have learned and why I'm glad for the tenacity on these calls. The people that are fighting, the systems that are fighting, they don't rest. Now, they rest because they're not God. But my point is they are working hard every day trying to figure out how to be mean and hurtful. And we have to have a marathon. This is not going to change with one march, but it will shift if we have a deep, deep commitment. So my dear Karina from Hanifa, from I Am Man in Atlanta, talk to us.
Greetings, everyone. I hope you can hear me. My name is Karima Hanifa, and my name is Karima Hanifa, and I am community organizer with Iman Atlanta, the Inner City Muslim Action Network. I'm currently.
Let me apologize to you. So it's Iman. Yes. I got it now. So you hit me on my hand. You know how the teachers used to slap you on the wrist and say, "Young Bob, get this stuff right." So okay, assalamu alaikum, my sister. Is that correct?
That is correct. Wa alaikum assalam.
All right.
I am currently championing the No Taxation Without Representation campaign here in the state of Georgia, and I am directly impacted by the criminal justice system. We are resolved to change the Georgia law that prohibits citizens who are on parole and probation from exercising their right to vote. We believe that as long as a person is a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen, they must have access to the institutions that govern their life. This is the fundamental basis for all American laws and values, and to disregard it is to disregard our noble democracy. The mission is for No Taxation Without Representation is to mobilize and strategize. For all individuals currently serving under the Georgia Department of Supervision, we aim to change the language, the narrative associated with returning citizens and actively support existing and developing new initiatives around supporting successful reentry and becoming productive citizens and enfranchised citizens. Our value is we resolve to create and or support legislation designed to open up opportunities and shutting down obstacles associated with our mission. Did you know it is illegal for a person on active probation or parole to register to vote? My personal narrative, when I came home, I thought I could go back to living my life after serving 26 years inside of the Georgia Department of Corrections. I would soon learn that as an individual sentenced to life, I am denied the fundamental rights to vote for the rest of my life. Disenfranchisement does not just affect POC, people of color, it also affects the poor people. Georgia has a population of 266,000 disenfranchised voters. The poorest people in this country are formerly incarcerated, and they literally have no representation.
That's
Because
right.
because you cannot vote, you do not have a voice. However, we are forced to pay taxes, and a lot of times we don't think about paying taxes. When you go in the store and you buy soda, or you pay taxes on your tag every year, or if you own a home, you pay taxes on that mortgage. However, a lot of people who are not disenfranchised never think about not having representation, meaning I don't get to decide who the governor will be or who the mayor will be or any other elected officials. People who have been incarcerated are poor in social capital, poor in political capital, and are second-class citizens in every aspect. And that is why I am here on today to talk about the campaign that will restore voting rights, which will give us access to be involved in the systems that have been created to create barriers for people who have been incarcerated. But this mobilizing and this strategizing is about returning the vote so that we can have a say-so in the laws that affect our lives on a daily basis.
And so you're mobilizing then for June 18th. That's what
Yes,
because
definitely.
you know, when we talk about racism in the Poor People's Campaign, the two lenses that we look through the most is voting suppression and mass incarceration and the damage that it causes. Because in some states, the very margin of victory is in the number of disenfranchised, formerly incarcerated persons who could vote and could shift public policy. It's amazing to me how we see people commit a lot of crimes at what they used to call the white collar level, and everything is done to assist them back. But otherwise, when people have paid their debt to society, you come out, and then recidivation, what's it called? Recidivation, when people go, there's a lot of times recidivism is driven by persons being driven into poverty, even when they have paid their debt to society. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. We need your voice. Your voice is powerful. And what you all are seeing tonight as you share this is what we call interlocking injustices, and whether it's poverty or mass incarceration or living wages or denial of health care, all of these issues interlock, and almost all of them are so pushed by persons who
Yes, Bishop, we've frozen on us, but I know that you'll be back shortly. At this time, as Bishop Barber comes back, let's go ahead and we're going to bring on Rabbi Mark Peelan from Gadsden, Alabama, to bring a moral analysis and voice from East Alabama.
I'm so sorry I got cut off. I don't know what happens to this thing. But our brother Mark from Alabama, and then Elliot Smith. Elliot is the nephew of Amelia Boynton. Is that right, Elliot? And so he's a direct descendant of the sister that was beat on. He's going to talk about why youth all over this country are mobilizing. And then Reverend Julie Canada, the Unitarian Church in Birmingham, is going to talk about why you're mobilizing, why Unitarians across the country. Let's take it away. And y'all give your best, because we're taping these so we can cut them up and put them into announcements that are going to be shown all across the country. Rabbi?
Can you hear me?
I do. God bless you. Shalom. Shalom.
Shalom to all of you. It's an honor to participate. Realistically, it just keeps getting worse. Our country is tottering, and civil discourse incrementally decreases. Jewish tradition addresses the issue of how society can be maintained without descending into complete chaos. It insists that the social contract cannot exist without justice, truth, and peace. This is a clarion call for communities to conduct their affairs with social justice. The ancient Hebrew prophets implore us to strive for a unity of concrete deeds. They exhort us to act. They knew that if our fellow human beings are degraded, experience deprivation and suffer, so do we. If their freedom is restricted or denied, ours also is threatened. And so, friends, let us unite to pursue humaneness, justice, freedom for all, and equal opportunity to create and succeed, particularly in voting rights, in healthcare, in housing, employment, academia, and economic enterprise. Such worthy achievement begins here, wherever here is for you, whether in the United States or throughout the world at large. We can realize the beauty and blessing of brotherhood through the fulfillment of the psalmist's magnificent vision when he said, Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yachad. How beautiful and how wonderful it is when peoples, in the Hebrew it literally means brothers, when brothers can dwell together in harmony. And so, friends, let us strengthen and empower each other. Amen.
Amen, Rabbi. Thank you for reminding that great Psalm 133. It's one of our favorites. And I want you to know in the Jewish community that we actually got the call to do June 18th from Amos chapter 5. When God told Amos, I need a remnant that will come together. And in the Message Bible translation of Hebrew says to shut down everything and cry in the public square. And when I hear the crying of the people impacted, God says, then I will visit you. And then after it says, then let justice roll down like waters, righteousness like a mighty stream. And then Amos 6 says, woe unto those who are at ease in Zion. So that scripture is honored by Jews, Muslims, Christians, people of all different faiths. Thank you. Thank you. And we're so glad to know that the Jewish community is mobilizing for June 18th from the South all over this country. God bless you. Shalom.
Thank you, Bishop Parker.
Up next, Elliot.
Thanks, Bishop. My name is Elliot Smith, and I co-direct the student and youth engagement of Repairers of the Breach and the Poor People's Campaign. I hail from the 51st state of the Union, Washington, D.C., and I say 51st because it is my hope and expectation that one day Washingtonians will have the same full rights of citizenship that residents of other states enjoy. I carry with me a powerful legacy, as I am the great-great-great-grandnephew of Robert Smalls and the great-grandnephew to Amelia Boynton, two individuals who helped advance the first Reconstruction of the late 19th century and the second Reconstruction of the mid-20th century. With the recent legislative setbacks and the extreme retrogression and obstructionism of Manchin, Sinema, and 50 GOP senators, I stand here today to say that as a movement, we cannot ease the gas pedal or relent in our efforts. My Aunt Amelia and her husband, Sam Boynton, were registering voters and organizing in Selma starting in the 1930s for over 4 decades. 4 decades in the midst of racial intimidation and violence.
Elliot, say that one more time, because we got people that say, I'm tired. It's been 1 year. Your aunt, way before she was beaten on that bridge. Say that one more time. That's real slow.
That's right. That's right. Starting in the even starting in the 20s, but beginning in the 1930s, her husband, Sam Boynton, and herself, my Aunt Amelia, were organizing, registering, educating for over 4 decades in the South amidst racial intimidation and violence. And each time they were met with not only violence, but legislative defeats. They didn't give up, they didn't compromise, and they didn't sit out. They didn't wait until the next election cycle to pick up the work. They merely continued to mobilize, organize, register, and educate until the consciousness of this nation was shaken. So today, let us mirror that energy and let us continue to build a multiracial, intergenerational movement of the poor, because we need a moral reset in this country. That is why the PPC, the Poor People's Campaign, is organizing and mobilizing thousands of students, along with moral allies, national partners, and impacted persons across the nation towards the June 18th Mass Poor People's and Low-Wage Workers Assembly and Moral March on Washington and to the polls, because it's time. It's time, y'all. It's time to address affordable housing, debt relief, access to clean water and clean air, living wages, the right to vote, militarism and the war economy, and the many issues facing our society. Poor and low-income people across gender, race, color, and creed hold the key to political and economic transformation. So we are the sleeping giant, and it is why we are coming to DC on June 18th, not for a day, but for a declaration of ongoing commitment so that this nation can finally realize a third Reconstruction that my ancestors had envisioned.
All we say is amen. And I'm working on your ordination license. Me and Reverend Jackson are gonna make sure that happens. But we thank God for you, Ellie. And in a couple of weeks, you're gonna lead a delegation of young people to Selma for the walk across the Emmons Pettus Bridge, but not just to walk and commemorate, but to recommit and to reconsecrate ourselves to the movement. And your aunt lived in Resurrection City, didn't she, in '68? So she didn't just stop with the Selma to Montgomery. She was with Dr. King and the welfare rights workers even then. Well, thank you, my brother. Your voice is powerful, and the thousands upon thousands of young people. Look, somebody share this out. What's happening here tonight? Share the website. Go to www.poorpeoplescampaign.org. Click on the website. Follow it. You've got a message being pushed out on chat, on the chat and everywhere else. We need you to mobilize, and we hope thousands of you are RSVPing right now. Right now, listen to Elliot. Elliot said to us, his aunt and his uncle suffered setbacks, but they did not wait to the next election to fix it. They continued to fight. 40 years before John Lewis, Dr. King, or anybody else came, they set the foundation. They did the spade work to make even what happened in '65 what happened because of the work they did for 4 decades. God bless you so much. Reverend Julie Kennedy.
Reverend Julia, we're having trouble hearing you.
While she's coming up, just let me know when Reverend Julia, I can see you well. Reverend, try it again. Try getting off mute one more time.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. All right, you can't leave the Unitarians out. Good gracious. All right.
Thank you, Bishop. What I love about living in Alabama, the beautiful, is that our legacy is not one of letting things slide. If you know nothing else about Alabama, photos of our people rising against injustice. In 2022, there are two kinds of people in this political season. There are agents of change and agents of control. We who are agents of change want things to always improve. We certainly have yet to reach the human zenith on so many levels. Agents of control seek to dominate the rest of us, to mine our bodies as part of the production process, to limit how much money can be in our wallets through taxation and legislation and marketing, to dictate what women should do with their bodies. Agents of control refuse the models of so many other nations who have found ways to balance the scales, to ensure everyone is fed, housed, healthy, educated, and children are surrounded with love and safety. America, why is meeting the basic human needs of all persons somehow too much to ask? Expand Medicaid, legislate a living wage, keep your laws off our bodies. Instead, we have people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk wasting billions of dollars on traveling to space while avoiding both taxes and philanthropy and basic worker dignity. Just yesterday, Alabama Governor Kay Ivey spent $7 million on a Super Bowl ad just to insult President Biden. Our Supreme Court appeases us with little bitty wins while it continuously rules in favor of the wealthy and the corporations. We are going to DC to call for accountability from our leaders to say that wealth inequality exists and it hurts all of us. We want accountability for the ever increasing wage gap and a guaranteed livable wage.
That's right.
When we voted for these politicians, we did so because they promised to work on this discrepancy and to hold the ultra wealthy accountable. We need to dismantle these systems of oppression brick by brick. This Valentine's Day, I'm calling you to show your love for all people, for people of all different skin colors, of all different gender identities and orientations. You can do it, America. We all have inherent worth and dignity. Join us in Washington, D.C. on June 18th. Let us make our voices heard. Forward together and no steps back.
Not one, no steps back. And my sister, you said something. Those who are about control versus those who are about change. And you know, even in Alabama, as I've listened to some of, even Republicans, when they run, they talk about how they're going to lift up all people. Then when they get elected, they do something different. Of course, when they run, they also talk about, they blame some people for other people's pain. Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because it is a sad thing that the majority of the people in the United States Congress who vote to back the policies of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the policies of greed, the policies of profit, come from the very place where the majority of poor and low wealth people live, even the majority of white poor and low wealth people, because 1/3 of all poor and low wealth people that are white live in the South. And so for years, they've divided. There was 1968, Pat Buchanan wrote Richard Nixon and said, we must engage in what he called positive polarization, otherwise we can't hold the South. Mm-hmm. He said, if we don't do this, the black and white people are going to come together, and then Latinos, and they're going to vote in ways that are transformative. So he literally said, we must engage in positive polarization and then never and always deny it publicly. That's been the policy, but it's over now, because people like you and others are saying we will not be divided. And I love what you said. Always in Alabama, there's been a remnant. Always in Mississippi, there's been a remnant. Georgia, South Carolina, of people who said in their own time, we're not going to stand for this, and we're not just going to let it go. So thank you so much for your witness, your power. The world needs to hear your voice of moral authority, and yours and many others they will hear on June 18th, 2022 for the Mass Poor People's Low-Wage Workers Assembly Moral March on Washington and to the polls. And so, my brothers and sisters, we've come to 9:30 tonight. Yara, I'm going to do something a little bit different tonight because this was our first one out of the box, and so we're trying to kind of get ourselves together, and I'm even trying to figure out how to MC, because what we're really trying to do is put forth the voices, just like it's going to be in June, because the greatest moral authority is, as Liz often says, are the ambulance drivers, the people who live right in the midst of the trouble and the change, and like ambulance drivers, turn on their sirens and say, you know, we are not going to be silent. We're not going to be silent anymore. So I want you to see a video. It is a powerful video that was put together when we did the march from Greenwood to Austin when we were in Texas. But it shows this diversity of voices. And I want you to imagine this multiplied 20 times in the nation's capital, and even in some parts, maybe even around the world. And what a day of declaration looks like. It's not an end. The day doesn't end the struggle. It says that we're not going to ever stop the fight and the struggle. And we're going to win, because not only is what we're doing morally consistent, constitutionally consistent, morally defensible, politically sensitive, it's economically sane. It's economically sane. And so take a look at this, and then I'm going to let Rob close out tonight by driving people again to the website. Tell everybody you know. Call everybody you know. Tweet everybody you know. Email everybody you know. TikTok everybody you know. Chat with everybody you know. Whatever methodology. If you know how to get on top of a mountain and holler and create an echo, do that. Whatever you hand out flyers all over the cities, every street corner, every church, every community. Let everybody know. As Dr. Jackson said, all roads lead to Washington, D.C., June 18, 2022. And as Reverend Liz Theo Harris said, this is the time we must move. And as my dear sister from Mississippi said, this pain reaches across every race, color, creed, sexuality, wherever people are, and it does not have to be. And this is our Edmonds Pettus Bridge. This is our moment. This is our abolition moment. This is the moment you and I are being called to. Take a look. And so not only can you walk by faith as we organize, but you can even walk by some sight. Because we can do it in a state. We can do it in the nation's capital that will soon be a state, the 51st state. God bless you all. Love you. Forward together, not singular, not individually, not black people over here and white people over there and Latinos over there, people fighting for healthcare over here, people fighting for voting. Forward together and not one step back.
Amen and amen, Bishop, and everyone that's come on from
video up.
Southeast. We are sending you to the video, but we want to make sure folks go to the website before we go to the video.
Do the video first, Rob. I want to go to the video right now at the end of what I said and then come back to that. There's a reason why I closed like that. So go straight to the video and then come back. Y'all hang on throughout the video and then you'll get instructions. Thank you so much.
Versus right. Saving this democracy's possibility is non-negotiable. This is about right versus wrong, and the right time to do right is right now.
140 million people in this nation are poor or one emergency away from economic ruin, but it does not have to be this way.
And you look at the diversity in this crowd. This is the America they are afraid of.
In the 1960s, Democrats and Republicans stood up together for social justice. It was the right thing then, and it's the right thing now. We know that if Lyndon Baines Johnson was here, he would be saying, free to vote! Free to vote!
The goal of the Poor People's Campaign was to help the poor confront the evils that create poverty.
But my father used to tell me, don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
The government should listen to our voices, no matter our race, citizenship, or how much money we have.
We are not lazy. We are exhausted from the endless cycle of poverty.
We are demanding what is morally fair and just
You need to stop suppressing and regressing and start addressing and resurrecting.
So stop messing with our right to vote.
We need to make it easier to access the ballot. We need to make it easier to live with dignity and respect without struggling.
We didn't take shortcuts when we marched, and we don't deserve to be shorted in this legislation.
That's right.
My body is tired. My voice is shaky, but my mind is determined.
I have done nothing but fight.
We know that for democracy to work for us, it has to work for all of us. It has to include all of us. So
Show me what democracy looks like.
The persistence, the strength, and the courage of this movement is what it's about.
For the sake of bringing change to all our communities.
I want the people to win. Take this opportunity in my hand. Change does not come from the top down. It comes from the bottom up.
And we recognize as people of faith, this is the work of the church, but it is not only the work of the church.
We got a word for the U.S. Senate. Come back to Jesus.
When we show up and show out, we walk our talk.
Together, we are strong. We can protect each other. Insurrections never win. Only resurrections win.
And history tells us what we have to do when states work to subvert democracy. We're not going to let them stop us from coming out, and this is our country, and I'm what an American looks like.
The biggest gun we got, called a ballot box.
We must rise up as a moral army.
They're creating an America where everyone counts.
We must challenge every weak Democrat, every sorry Republican, every silent independent that you will not stand in the way of our right to vote. Ain't gonna let nobody turn you around.
It's time for the rejected to lead a revival of justice in America.
Let the people say amen. You can come off mute as we round out our launch of the Mass Poor Peoples and Low-Wage Workers Assembly and Moral March on Washington and to the Polls Mobilization Tour, live from Alabama, from Mississippi, from Georgia, from Florida, from Tennessee, and live from all of our rooms where little kids are running around in the background. But we are here to fight for them. We're here to fight for you. We're here to fight for all of us as we move towards June 18th, 2022 for this assembly. It is going to be historic. It is going to be powerful. Go to poorpeoplescampaign.org/June 18th, poorpeoplescampaign.org/June 18th. Sign up now, become a mobilizing captain so you can mobilize your community. Sign up for a rally bus all over the nation. We have a great partner in rally.co that is helping us to get buses there. Find the toolkit to push out all the information, the flyers, the videos, the promos that are all on the website. Tonight we're launching. We're so thrilled to have you in this. We know that we can go forward together and not one step back. See y'all on June 18th.
Thank you, Rob. Man. Right.